You ready? Good evening. Welcome everyone to the City Council work session. Bring it to City Council Monday, May 2nd, 2022. Please stand for the pledge of the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one
Liberty
nation,
and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Mr. Clerk, will you please do a roll call for us?
Yes. Councilman Scaringi, it looks like he's absent. Councilwoman Resnetti, I believe, is absent as well. Councilwoman Riley is also absent. Councilwoman Friedman,
Present.
Councilman Burns, Councilman Scanlon,
Present.
and President Strong.
Present.
That's 4 here, 3 absent, Scaringi, Resnetti, and Riley.
Okay. I do not see our guest, and I think Pat McGinnis is going to join him as one out there. Go on, I see Billy. We just go to Billy. Mix and match here a little bit. I don't see Chuck either. Billy, you're out there?
I'm here.
All right, let's just let you go ahead, and then you can be on with your evening. All right, everyone, we'll probably just mix and match here a little bit tonight as we so we have some late people coming in, so we'll make the best of it. So Billy, why don't you go ahead and tell us about RL 22-132, please?
All right. Good evening, council members. I am requesting $12,600 increase to architectural and design services from Giannis Anderson. We received a letter from the Mets organization asking us for designs to include 3 female locker rooms for the umpires, trainers, and coaches. I'm asking that this be expedited because we have a really tight schedule. We need to get the design done and bid packets out so we can break ground in October as soon as the season is over, so that we can get substantial completion by the opening day of 2023. Have any questions?
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Billy on RL 22-132?
We'll let the record show that Councilwoman Riley has just arrived.
Excuse me, Councilman Strawn,
Yeah.
who's all the people walking around down there?
Yeah, I'll tell just a second. Our guest just
Okay.
came in. Billy, give us 1 second. I apologize. We have a little bit of our late arriving crowd here. So give us 1 second to reorganize ourselves. What's that? I'm not saying any reason why. I'm just telling them that we're going to late arriving crowd. All right. I'll announce the people in 1 second. Let's let Billy finish that. Let's finish this since we started this. Does anybody have any questions for Billy on RL 22-132? Okay, thanks, Billy. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. For anybody watching out there, I think we're settled here now at the desk down here. From your right to left, we have Councilwoman Riley. We have Councilwoman Friedman. We have our clerk, Lee Rogers, Phil Strawn, our corporate counsel, Sharon Sorkin, Councilman Joe Burns. And then we have Pat McGinnis and Chris Strand from Indigo Golf. And of course, Pat's our guy. And they're going to present here just shortly on the Ely Park, to have a little discussion about Ely Park. So those are the people at the table down here. So we'll go back to the top, and Chris and Pat, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you for the invitation. Just want to give a little recap on kind of Ely Park, where we've been now that we've Indigo Sports has taken over management for the last just over a year. And the big thing I can say is what a difference a year makes. So obviously when we took over in spring of 2021, the course was in rough shape, needed a lot of work, and it had a bad reputation. I mean, in the field to get golfers to come and enjoy the facility. It's kind of crazy to think, we opened May 1st of last year. And we were standing on, this morning on the golf course, and, how it looks night and day different. The conditions was the number one reason, the course wasn't doing well. So as we fixed a lot of things up last year, got things going, we steadily saw rounds improve, revenue improve. And then, to point to this year, we were able to open as soon as we had decent weather. Put a snow in the middle of April is not always the best, but at least when we have been open, the days have been good. We've had 4 days over 150 rounds already, including last Sunday, not yesterday, the Sunday before, we did 201 rounds. We didn't do 200 rounds any day last year. So
Very nice.
that's a positive sign that we're already doing that in April when the days are short and we don't run into midsummer season. So golfers are coming back, they're enjoying again. We're getting every day just tons and tons of positive feedback. That everything is so much better. We held the Triple Cities Golf Association tournament Saturday, which included 116 golfers. Those are diehard tournament players, and again, nothing but positive remarks on course conditions and everything else. And that's good feedback because that's a lot of people that probably wouldn't have played unless there was a tournament, and that's only going to spread the word too. So this year, our goals are keep the making a comeback kind of marketing theme around it, right? We got to get more people coming back to play it, to change their reputation and people to see that things are getting better. We have a new cart fleet, et cetera. And I know we're going to get into rates in a second, but last year we had a rate schedule, but we found right off the bat, we had to discount off of those just to get people to come play it. But we needed that. We need people to come experience it again and see it again. It's in better shape. So, this year the rates, we're going to hold fast on those and set, be at a rack rate, for the whole season, and maybe even find pockets where we can make a little bit more. But that's kind of the goal for this year as we keep improving things. We thank, the city for helping us with some capital improvements and things over last year and this year. To kind of continue that positive momentum going forward. Happy to answer any questions that they may have.
Let me ask you a quick question, and then we'll, anybody is welcome, of course. What other, obviously that's a great news that it's already early in the year and people are coming. What other major initiatives from tournaments, leagues, is food service going to be back at any level? Things like that you're doing on purpose, other than the course and the word of mouth is just going to bring people back, but the other initiatives that you might be doing in year two as well, knowing that you have a good course to back up other events and people coming up there.
Yeah, I mean, another positive sign is our annual pass holders. Last year we had 94. This year we're at 114. So we're already 20 more annual pass holders up compared to last year. And the leagues are just starting, right? A few started last week. A lot start this coming week. Some will pay for their memberships right as we start up. So we expect to see a boost in that. So we're already over membership dollars for what we had last year, and well on our way to hitting that budgeted number. We also have the kitchen plans in place. We're not going to be able to open right away, because we're redoing the flooring in the kitchen and all that stuff there. But at least we'll be able to start with the liquor license right away. We still serve hot dogs and drinks, to our daily golfers, but plan to, hopefully by end of this month, if, we finish off the flooring and plumbing, we can at least start with a basic menu and start serving drinks in the grill. We're upgrading some of the bar tables and stools and we painted it and changed the ceiling fans, again, make it more attractive, change the perception and get that better. And then as the kitchen equipment arrives, which everything in the world is delayed right now, over the course of the summer, we're hoping by July sometime to kind of be fully open up there with everything. So that'll be an added amenity that will definitely generate more revenue and help the bottom line. And Definitely, last year we only held a few outings. We already got, a couple thousand more outing rounds on the books for this year and plan to keep growing that. Again, that's going to grow as we do more with the golf course being in better shape. But also once we can do more of that food and drink, I think that'll become more attractive as well.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Strand and Pat or Pat? Councilwoman Riley, go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for being here and thank you for presenting that information. So what we have in our packet is the current rate for season passes and the various different payer levels, correct? Is this a discounted rate that we see here, or is that our expectation?
So that's the plan set rack rates for this season. Just so everyone's aware, the planned rates for last year were basically the same walking rates. And then we took all the riding rates up $1. So all our 9-hole and our 18-hole fees, we have the new cart fleet, all went up $1. So compared to last year, basically our riding rates are up $1 and our walking rates stayed exactly the same. That's the plan for 2022. What's going to be different from an APR standpoint is we're thinking now that the course is in good shape, we can actually get this rate. Last year, we were discounting down to $29 during the week, and we were at $33 to $35 on the weekend. So we were discounting it down that $3, $4, $5. So this year the plan is go back to what we were hoping to get last year and realize we couldn't quite get there, and actually go for that, and then get a little bit more out of the cart and riders. Whether you're a member or a public or lead, you're all going to pay $1 more for carts. Also, our memberships across the board on our annual pass holders on the bottom, we took up the singles at $100, couples $150, for this year as well. So we raised our annual pass holder fees.
Thank you. And for those of us not professional golfers, outing round, what is an outing round?
Outing would be a pre-booked bigger group, right? So not just regular tee time play that's booking a foursome at a time. So this could be anything from 20 players to 100 players. That's kind of pre-booking a package rate. And that rate is all determined based on kind of what time and date and you need, right? Weekend mornings more expensive than Monday afternoon. But that's kind of, we give a predetermined rate on that. Usually it's discounted a little bit off of these because they're buying a whole bunch of golfers at one time. So you usually want to give a little bit of a break for that. But especially if they end up adding food or other drinks or things like that, that we can build that into the package.
Now repeat for me, because I think when you said this before, you said we have about 1,000 outing round requests.
No, so total outing rounds, we're already have a couple thousand more outing
People.
rounds projected for this year than we did last year.
Okay. But
So that
that's
could
not
be different. That group wise, that could mean, I don't have the group number in front of me.
That could be like 5 groups of 200.
Correct. But we would have it
Oh.
more like, my guess is it's more in the closer range of 20 groups that are, or 30 groups that are more like 50 to 80, that type of stuff. So smaller, usually that's what Ely Park's really good for. It's a fun outing event course and getting more of those tournaments. Again, this weekend was a perfect example of having that Tri-Cities Golf Association. Last year with the conditions, that would never have happened, right? I mean, that group would have never even thought about coming to Ely Park, and that they were interested to come at the end of April, right out the start of the season, is a huge positive sign. And I'm glad we were able to get on the schedule early, because that, again, only can help build momentum of, wow, we played Ely, it was in great shape, we should go there again, right? That's the whole
right.
idea.
Now tell me this, when we have large organizations or associations coming to the park, is there a post-use assessment or evaluation where they're giving us feedback on the quality of service and the standards, what have you?
We have so we have actually two different things. So for outing wise specifically, Brad, our general manager, will send out kind of a review of what did you like, not like, a thank you as well, of course, as part of that. So we'll get some of that feedback. But every golfer, general public that plays our golf course, they'll get an email. If we have their email address, it's attached to their profile. Literally the night they play, they'll get an email saying, thank you for playing Ely Park. What was your feedback? And there's two questions. well, three questions. One, rate us on a scale of 1 to 10 on how likely you'd come back, or recommend us to a friend. And then two, what can we improve on and what did you like? And so that goes in my email, the general manager's email the next day, or if they fill it out, we get the next day and can go through all that. So that's great feedback that we get instantaneously with our golfers every day that come to Ely Park to say what's been good and what's not. Last year was a lot of bad conditions, but as it went through the years, it's getting better, it's getting better, it's getting better. This spring has been nothing but wow, course is in great shape. It's better than it's been in years. I haven't seen it like this in a decade. I mean, literally, that's the comments every time we open an email with that. It's nothing but positive, which is tremendous. Every day I visit when I'm here, it's funny how many, I'm guessing most of them are annual pass holders, but just regular golfers that go out of their way to go, wow, you guys have done a tremendous job. Wow, the golf course is way better shape. I actually even kid with Brad that he must be paying off people to say it to me constantly. I'm like, this is getting a little, Brad, you can stop, but no, it's good. I mean, Brad and Jeff have done a tremendous job on changing the perception, changing the conditions, and that's being seen by, the regulars, the leagues, and now more people that are coming back to play.
Well, thank you for that information. That's very, very helpful. And we hope to visit and tour very soon. We were not privy to the tour of some people, but
we would love to have you. It'd be great to have you up. I mean, I think we've talked about once the kitchen was kind of fully operational, maybe having a kind of a field trip day there and doing something, to kind of kick it off and everything too. So, but yeah, glad to have you anytime.
awesome. Please keep us in the loop.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be good. Actually, I lived it because I've been in the league. We did stay, but we lost teams. Now we're gaining teams back again. So when I was up there the one time, I was there to play just like anybody else, regardless of this
Yeah.
role. But that's good news. You said the carts are in and being used, or they're on their
Brand new
way?
carts are in.
Okay,
We got
good.
those, I think November 30th.
Okay.
Last year. We got them in to storm for the winter, but
Good.
but yeah, as soon as we open this year, we've had the new carts going.
Great.
No, I've been getting the same feedback that you've been getting. People, I see people out and they go, hey, I played Ely. Looks great.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's been a fun golf course year round. I mean, when there's a lot of that positivity and people excited about it again and wanting to come back and, telling their friends, that's great. We also kidded last year, when we were airifying, which usually as a golfer, is like everyone hates the word airification. It was funny how many people last year were like, oh my God, you're airifying. That's so great.
Right. Because they didn't do
Just
it for
'cause
so long.
wasn't done
Right.
before. People understood that the maintenance practices need to be caught up again and doing more of those things. So it was it's good to see for sure, and it's fun to be part of that positive story.
Pat, anything to add?
Yeah, I got a call this week. A gentleman from Scotland was driving through the area, pulled over for lunch, saw the sign, went up. So he spent about 6 hours up there playing, and it took him so long because he was taking so many pictures.
Nice.
Such a beautiful place.
It's definitely a beautiful area up there. There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Councilwoman Friedman, go ahead.
Thank you, President Strawn. I just have a quick question regarding this fee schedule to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So on the table where there's the two columns, walk and ride, and then underneath it has the cart rates. So that $14 and $8, that's already included in the ride calculation.
Correct.
Is that correct? So it doesn't cost more to ride and then additional to use the golf cart, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The reason we separate the carts is because our annual pass holders have to pay the carts as they go. So they bought the greens fees up front
Okay.
at zero. Well, and then they pay $0 for greens fees when they come to play that day, and they only pay the cart fee. We have to break that out, but you're correct. The walk adds that cart automatically to those rates.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Thank you for explaining. I was wondering why they were separated out if they were already
It
included.
kind of
but-
goes along with the season passes right below it, right? So,
Right.
in theory, it probably could have the season passes and then the carts listed underneath that. But yeah, that's how it's structured.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I know on the agenda, we talked about actually approving rates that were $40 weekday and $45 on weekend. The reason for that is that, you know, let's say we're having a great year, conditions are great, and we're seeing the market justify that we're doing even better than what these rates are. We'd love to be able to even increase it $1 or $2 in season if we can. I think what we have here presented here is should be probably, you know, really good for the season. Again, since last year, we're kind of going back to those rates and not discounting. But we want to have that flexibility as well, just in case. I mean, a day like Father's Day, we're packed and we can get a couple dollars above rack. I mean, you want to do those things, right? You want to maximize every dollar you can get. That's exactly right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Go ahead, Riley.
One more thing, again, I'm sure promos and all these things that we're talking about are currently on the website. So is there social media, all those things too, so we can kind of look out for it? And
Yeah, absolutely. We started a brand new Facebook page last year that's been very popular. Brad's been doing a great job of uploading that with pictures and updates and different things as we go. The brand new website that we started last year as well, golfelypark.com. That's been upgraded with all these things, online rate structures. So you could book online at any time, morning, noon, and night. So all those things have been kind of upgraded. You probably remember last year we changed the logo or included a new logo to try to, again, just change perception that things were new and different, right? And I think that's gone a long way too. So that's in every email we send out. It has the tagline of all that stuff in it. Click our Facebook little icon, log into those things. Promoting the website. They literally have a poster on the first tee that says use this QR code to download that and go right into our Facebook, go right to our website, all those things. And it's just training the golfers that, we're much more accessible.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Chris or Pep? Okay, thanks guys for some good news for this work session. Thank you. We kind of already did it, but does Chuck or Megan, is there anything to add to the fee schedule that we've seen? We kind of already talked about that a little bit. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions? I think it was pretty well explained and the fee schedule. Okay. I wasn't sure if they're going to accept it. Okay. All right. We have Paul and Tito. Paul, that's you, right, out there?
Yes,
I saw
hello.
Tito was here, and then I don't know where he went.
Oh, okay. He was kind enough to give me his link to you because somehow I must have deleted Janine's link to me. You get older and you forget these things. So thank you, Tito.
Okay. Well, he'll be on, I guess, back in a second. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about RL 22-134?
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
From your perspective. Okay. Sure.
Okay. Just a brief overview. Off-premise signage requires your approval as city council. We have had kind of our signs in that one location along Route 1781, and then a couple on the Brandywine. And if you remember that a number of years ago, the DOT put up noise barriers that negatively impacted our signs. And it was unfortunate because we thought we had coordinated well with the DOT, but that didn't prove to be true. We do have one digital sign that faces west on this exact location on Griswold. And historically, there's been a static board facing east. We'd like to get your approval to switch that static board from static to digital because the market works. And we think that will help us save some business and also contribute to the business community. So it's, I think the planning council seemed to be in agreement. And we would really appreciate the opportunity to go forward. You can use it for public service announcements and Amber Alerts and that type of thing. They're very successful. In fact, a child in Buffalo was saved directly because of a billboard that flashed an Amber Alert. So we're open to the city advertising any of its functions and welcome the opportunity to go forward. It does need DOT approval. We know that that would not be unduly withheld. It meets all the criteria that they have for the electronics and the spacing and the sizing. It dims at night, much like a candle can be seen a long distance at night. In the daytime, the sign competes with the sun. So in that context, it does brighten up a bit. The sign is self-aware. If anything goes wrong with it, we monitor it quickly. And we've had great success to date with the existing signs. So any questions you might have for me?
Councilwoman Freeman, go ahead.
Thank you, President Strong. Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. So in this supplement, in the memorandum, there underneath the Broome County's recommendation, it says, please see enclosed letter dated February 14th. That's not in my packet. I wonder, is there a separate enclosed letter?
Well, that would have come from the planning department. The only letter that I am aware of was a letter from the Broome County Government Office. I do have one of those in my possession. If you want me to briefly highlight it, if you don't have a copy.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, it's sent to Assistant Director Martinez, and it's referencing the property and our application. And their summary level, as unfortunately reads, the planning department has reviewed the above cited case. Our 2019 comments recommending denial of the static and digital boards in this corridor still stand, including the following. And they reference excessive signs in the area. I'm just bulletizing. And based on previous efforts of Broome County, City of Binghamton, DOT, and stakeholders, they wanted to, I'm sorry, I'm trying to highlighting a whole paragraph. It seeks, it's an important gateway, and they think there's a vision issue there. And then it references we should include photos of the existing east-facing sign. And then the case was routed, according to this letter, it was routed to the state DOT for review. And they just commented that we should not be on the right of way. We're fluent with DOT requirements. I must say a few things here. One is retiring in 60 days. I've worked with the city and Broome County for well over 20 years. I have never had Broome County Planning recommend approval of a sign. So, so I know that we have had success with the city, and it does require a majority +1 vote from the deciding body of voters, which would be City Council. So if there's any more specificity you'd like from this letter, I'll do my best.
I think that's okay. Thank you for summarizing. If I would love to see a copy of it, just yeah.
Yeah, this is an expedited. Would that be something we could get back to the clerk's office and they could distribute it to us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Should I, I'll do it tonight. Should I send it both to Tito and to Janine? Would that be appropriate?
Sure, that would be fine.
Very good. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for that. Yep.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
That was my only question.
Any other questions for Paul?
Oh, I did have
Go ahead.
one other question.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm checking. Okay, so under under city council action, right, it says within 30 days or such longer period as may be agreed upon by the applicant, blah, 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 blah. In action by the city council within the aforementioned time period shall be deemed a final denial of the permit. So within 30 days of March 7th, that date has already passed. That would have been April 7th. I'm wondering, have we agreed upon a longer time period, or have we done inaction?
Historically speaking, we have both parties have confirmed an extension. We would welcome an extension given the time frame here. Sometimes paperwork just gets lost in the office, which was the case in this particular request. So I had been asking both the mayor and the planning department of statusing, and it kept slipping, and it was unfortunately delayed. So from Park Outdoors perspective, we would welcome the required extension.
Okay, so I wonder, is there anything that we have to do on our part to approve that extension? Questions in the room, for the room?
Sharon, anything? This says 30 days of action for the park outdoor, but this original memorandum from the planning department's March 7th. Goes back to who? What do you mean goes back to? Right. Right. Right, the
But-
two
Not
thirty.
to you, I mean, for them.
Yeah.
I apologize. I was saying the 239 statement comes from the county. So if there's any additional review by the applicable board, that would go back to them, but no further action will be required on the part of city council, is my understanding.
No further action from city council in order to extend the period of time?
I'm just.
It says
double
agreed
checking.
upon. It says inaction would be a final denial. We haven't acted yet, but it says or longer period may be agreed upon by the applicant of receipt and review of the.
If I might interject, historically speaking, when attorney Frank was it, this has happened in the past, and it seemed that it was reasonable that the parties just affirm with each other that they're willing to extend, and that is what I'm hoping to have happen. So I don't know if Brian Seacrest is in the room with you or another attorney. Sorry, I can't.
Yeah, we had no. Sharon's from corporate counsel's office is looking.
I'm just
at it right
taking
now.
a look at the 239.
Or I want maybe within 30 days of receipt and review of the written recommendations of the planning commission. So would that be 30 days from
Right now.
today?
It'll be 30 days from the date of the letter, it appears to be. Hold on.
Okay.
I just received the from your Department of Planning this Friday. I received for the first time the summary of the proposal. So I wonder if the date that he had on the heading was started beforehand, but it was
Earlier than that. Yeah, I mean, I think I apologize if I wasn't answering the question directly. I mean, I think what's before you in front of the RL requires your approval.
Within 30 days of today.
I think it's a period between the period of 30 days can be extended between the city and the applicant. So that's not what's at issue. I think the issue is whether or not the city council, common council is going to vote to approve it despite the county's denial.
I think that's correct. Yep.
Okay.
And then if you don't, it just defaults.
Right.
I don't know what the time period, I don't know if Tito is available to speak on what the time period between us and the applicant is. But I should say after the period of time, it then goes back to the applicable board with jurisdiction, absent the 239. That's the only issue that's before you.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we were within that time period so that we haven't defaulted to inaction, thereby denying the permit. But I get, it seems like it's a non-issue.
Thank you. Then my last comment from my side of it would be, you know how sometimes people might be concerned about safety and all that sort of thing. And we've never had an issue with any of our signs. But in order to get a New York State permit, which is required after receiving a local permit from the city, as part of that agreement, if in any unlikely event, if a sign has been approved and for some reason is proven to be dangerous for unforeseen circumstances after safety tests by DOT, et cetera, then we're obligated to take it down. And we would readily honor that because no one wants anything unsafe, but we think it's going to be fine.
I have a question.
Yeah. Councilman Burns, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, thanks for being here. So just so I get this completely straight in my head, that is the sign that is there now is going to be replaced with the electronic sign. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. One side is already digital, the other is static.
Oh, okay.
And so if you drive by eastbound on 1781, you will see it on the north side of 81. And that is a digital sign. We're hoping to back that up on the other side.
Right.
The
And
digital
the
sign identical.
Okay, and the sign already is lit at night,
Yes, sir.
correct? And we went through this last year with a sign. And if I'm correct, that the light that's given off at night from the electronic sign is actually less than the light from the current signs.
It's counterintuitive, but that is correct. There's no reflectivity on the digital sign. It's only one way.
Right.
But the halogen lights actually bounce. So I know a little bit about darkened sky technology. I don't know if these signs are compliant with darkened sky technology, but they are definitely sensitive to well-being of neighbors.
Right, but it is, and the bottom line for me anyway, we're not adding signage somewhere in the city. We're actually just replacing a sign that already exists, that if you don't get approved, that sign will still be there.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Paul as he's with us?
President Strawn.
Go ahead, Councilman Scanlon.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
Very good. Did you encounter any stumbling blocks from the planning commission when you gave them this proposal?
No, I didn't. Well, I have to be honest and say the chairman, he is a gentleman, and I like him very much, and we kid each other. But he is he laughs when he votes against the sign. He said, "Sorry, Paul, it's just a habit." You know, absent his vote, I don't recall any negatives. He just historically, he's thorough and well thought out as a person. But he was the only person that I remember having any negative comments. I think he's just historically anti-sign.
Actually, I was on a planning commission with him and I understand what you're saying there. Yeah. Thorough is a good word for him. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. This may be my sign off to the city of Binghamton. It's been a pleasure. So thank you so very much.
Yep.
Happy retirement.
Thank you. Have a good retirement.
Yes.
All right. I guess I'll hang up then. Good night.
Okay. Do we have Dr. Burling or Megan? Are you going to do this? I don't see her. Megan, are you doing RL 22-135?
Sorry, Councilman Strawn, I walked away from my computer. Which one is that? I don't have the agenda pulled up.
I don't see Dr. Burling on the phone. It's the US DOT award for Ross Park.
I am not, and I'm not sure which one that is. Let me reach out to her real quick and see if she can jump on.
Okay. In the meantime, Sharon, do you want to do 22-136 and 22-137?
Yes, hi. Put my director of personnel hat on. So the city's excited to retitle these positions. These went before Civil Service Commission last Wednesday. Some of you may be aware that approximately 10, 12 years ago, the Office of Personnel and Safety and the Office of Civil Service were two separate entities. And we had someone who specialized as the Civil Service Administrator who developed expertise and was able to serve as a resource, not only for the Civil Service Commission, which we administer independently here, as well as for candidates and employees regarding their civil service rights, in addition to other rights they may have under contract or under labor law and things of that matter. We have someone in our office right now, Jamie Allen, who's been with the city about 15 years, who for the last 6 years has been developing this specialty. About 10 years ago, the Civil Service Administrator passed away, and the Director of Personnel and Safety took over those responsibilities. And so, as with the case, most offices in City Hall, often the tasks assigned to a particular person relate to that person and not so much to the appropriate function of the office. Therefore, the proposal is to change the Assistant Director of Personnel and Safety position to a Civil Service Administrator position to better create independence here at the city with regards to those rights under civil service law and eligibility lists and hiring. And similarly, instead of a program assistant, which is a general title, which has office functions here at the city, to essentially cultivate a deputy position that would serve as a second in command to both the personnel director and the civil service administrator, who would be able to be trained for institutional knowledge carrying over in the event of a vacancy. You may see in the civil service administrator position that's RL 22-137 that we're pitching changing the hours from an 8-hour day to a 7-hour day. Similarly, this change happened some years ago as a means to obtain a raise for an employee here at the city. However, the 8-hour day doesn't not make sense with regards to civil service administrator functions. For example, we had a civil service test that we administered over the weekend that ran from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. So in the past, that had been taken with a 30-minute lunch and flex time. Here we're pitching that that is part and parcel of the salary, as a civil service administrator and every other employee at the city of Binghamton is required to be here Monday through Friday, 7 hours a day, and therefore flex time does not suit the needs of our population. Does anybody have any questions?
Councilwoman Riley, go ahead.
For that, Sharon, that really helped a lot.
Sure.
Can you clarify for me, in this amendment, why does it say confidential next to that title change?
Sure. So right now, the program assistant in the office is a confidential position. So what that means is personnel and roster cards contain confidential data related to city employees, including their social security numbers, personal addresses, things of that nature, as well as serves in kind of a confidential function to the Civil Service Commission, much like the Office of Corporation Counsel or the city clerk's office might serve in a confidential capacity to city council members. Because of that dual role, we're required to designate it as a confidential title in the code. At least that's how we've done it in past practice. So even though we're changing the title of the position from program assistant to personnel and safety assistant, I should say, I'll read that correctly, personnel and civil service assistant, it shall remain in a confidential capacity.
Okay. And now, is this being ranked higher now in terms, because it is management tested? So is it a higher rank with this new combination than would the program assistant?
So the program assistant is also a management tested
Mhm,
position, but the short answer to your question is yes. It is a higher rank and in the sense that it requires expertise and a specialty that are not currently required in that title, which primarily serves, that title primarily serves as like secretarial and payroll functions in other offices. Like our planning department has a program assistant, for example, our fire department, and they do payroll. This position is part of certifying minimum qualifications, certifying eligibility lists. It's more complex work, and we want to make sure that when we're hiring that for that position and maintaining a title in that position, that employee continues to train and be educated, and that the city put the resources into that title.
Well, thank you for that also. Now, when you were explaining it, you talked about the benefit of moving, and I may have misinterpreted, from X to civil service. So one was a different category?
The title of the prior position, and I'll separate them out. The prior position was Assistant Director of Personnel and Safety.
Okay.
About 13 years ago, we had no Assistant Director of Personnel and Safety. We had a Director of Personnel and we had a Civil Service Administrator. So this is taking us back to that structure so we can develop some amount of expertise and independence in the office. Then the other title, we're switching from Program Assistant to Personnel and Safety Assistant, who will essentially serve as a second in command to both of those positions, such that you continue to create institutional knowledge on the labor side and also institutional knowledge on the Civil Service Administration side. As a lawyer and having been in that office for a year and a half now, I think that the city has woefully underestimated the necessity of continuing to cultivate knowledge with regards to civil service over the course of the last 5 years. It's complex, and it's important that if we maintain these management tested positions, we're willing to put our money where our mouth is and develop and train accordingly.
All right. Well, thank you for that clarification.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And, I will say I did pull comparables. I did pull comparables in light of our conversation last time. And not every municipality runs its own civil service department. For example, many are run through the county. But when you think of comparable cities with civil service departments that are unique and not lumped in with human resources, the salary associated with civil service administrator ranges from approximately $67,000 per year, that's the city of Troy, to $93,000 a year, that's Ithaca. So Jamie Allen, with 5 years of experience, is willing to do this job, continue to develop that expertise for $55,000 a year. That is a bargain. And I'm so excited to be able to promote up from within, from somebody who's really worked their way up through the city for the last 15 years. My question.
I wasn't on the mic. That the assistant position compared to the recreated dual title position is not the 55. That's the 43.
Yes.
So did we also assess merging of responsibilities in terms of?
So that's a very good question. So I'll give you a good example of Schenectady, who does not in fact have run their own civil service. They have it through the county. So the way that Schenectady is structured, they're comparable size. They have a human resources administrator for $74,000 a year, an affirmative action officer for $80,000 a year, an employee health and safety coordinator for $65,000 a year, as well as a general HR manager for $52,000 a year. So when you're talking about a comparable city, they have about 6 people doing the job that 3 people are in hours without the civil service aspect. If we take a city like Troy, for example, which is also a comparable, about 49, the equivalent of the person who would be performing the personnel and civil service assistant title makes 56, or really it's a range of $53,000 to $70,000 a year for somebody who would be known as kind of a personnel tech or an HR coordinator. And those are not people who do payroll. So When you talk about kind of merging, let's say what the civil administrator would do and what the personnel and civil service assistant would do, you very much need 3 roles, but you need an increased responsibility for that third person in the chain that isn't just office functionality. It needs to be somebody who can be responsive to members of the public, who can review qualifications, who can assist department heads with establishing eligibility lists and navigating the world of civil service as well as union contracts.
Thank you again. That helps tremendously.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And actually, it's my pleasure to be able to do this restructuring here and kind of get firsthand experience with how we have been operating and to see where we need to go. And I'm very excited to be able to strengthen this office.
Go ahead.
Me again. So now that this person, for us, for in terms of knowing who we're talking to, who we're talking about, is there a new hierarchy, a picture to demonstrate where these new positions are going, who they report to, and how everything has shifted?
Yeah, so the city keeps organizational charts on each department, but we will be doing a revised organizational chart after city council approves the structure. And one of the things we're talking about, for example, is obviously you have a civil service administrator and a personnel director and this deputy position that's going to support both of them. But also what we're going to have is that the department is under the general supervision or guidance. Supervision may be a little bit of an overstatement of the Office of Corporation Counsel, labor specialist, which is actually how the city has been operating for the last 8 to 10 years. It's just never been formalized. Oh, no problem. We do, every time we hire somebody, we create a new position. We actually do add it to the organizational chart. And if council ever wanted to see those on a regular basis, be happy to provide them. Yes, they're on our K drive. You should have access to them. But I'll check with Lori. Sure.
Okay. Anything else for Sharon on 136, 137? Okay. Last one, Megan's going to take RL 22, 135.
Thanks, Councilman, and I apologize. The DOT part of this threw me off, but I'm at least somewhat familiar, so I hope to be able to give an overview and answer any questions. So as the RL says, this is authorizing the mayor to accept a grant of $250,000 to be used at Ross Park. The grant is for basically the creation of recreational trails, primarily at the southern end of the park. So back south of where the zoo is, there are acres of woods that have some trails, but they're pretty under-maintained or not quite where they need to be. So this grant money will help us build those out, get them up to where they are hopefully a attraction and a destination for hikers or just people who want to use the space for recreation. The total cost of the project is estimated at $312,500. And it's the city's intention to budget that 20% match into the 2023 budget, likely out of the Parks Department or CDBG, I would imagine.
Okay. Questions or comments for Megan on RL 22, 135? Okay. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Mr. Clerk, anything noteworthy on the pending legislation that we'll be looking at on the agenda for Wednesday?
Yes, we have 12 items for Wednesday. I won't go through them, but there's a lot on here. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi, this is Sharon. And council doesn't have to make its decision tonight, but we would like to get our roles started and with personnel and posting and hiring as soon as possible. And if there's no objection, I'd love both of those items to be added to Wednesday if the majority agrees.
I'm okay with that. Is anybody else? Is everybody else okay with that? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Clerk, and add that to the, yep, add that to the agenda for Wednesday night. Okay, motion to adjourn. Go ahead.
I have a discussion
Go ahead.
item that
Go ahead.
I would like to bring up, if that's okay. So I sent an email out to everyone a few days ago about a potential grant opportunity, and I'm just bringing this up. I haven't done too much research into it, but I just wanted to flag it as something that we might want to pay attention to. And so again, I'm just saying this as someone who's like just starting to learn about this, but there's a I attended like 1/3 of a webinar today about the Safe Streets for All initiative, which the federal Department of Transportation, I believe, is offering grant funds for cities that have proposals to expand the Safe Streets initiative, and that could include basically, well, their goal is to reduce pedestrian and motorist deaths. So that could include anything like updating infrastructure or I'm trying to think, like signage, bike lanes, like anything like that. And so the thing that came to my mind was something that I brought up when we took a tour of the AVRE facility, and I had asked about the those tactile paving tiles, which are the ones that are at the corners of sidewalks, and they have bumps to alert people who are using white canes to people who are visually impaired is not the right word. What's the right term? Blind, or it is visually impaired. That's correct. Okay. So people who are blind or visually impaired using a white cane to get information about the environment around them. And AVRE even has a little section where they train people on how to use those tools. So I've been to other cities where they have quite an expansive network of those paving tiles, not just at the corners of the sidewalk, but also ones that guide users along parallel to the sidewalk, or provide other information about curbs and things like that. And so that's what came to my mind with that. I was wondering what people's thoughts were in general. And again, I'm not totally sure like how involved it would be to apply for those funds, but it seems like it would fit because it would be a tool to help us increase pedestrian safety. So I'm happy to look more into that. Unfortunately, I had a conflict with work, so I missed the beginning of the webinar where they gave most of the information, and I was there for the Q&A session. It's not like super useful. But I just wanted to gauge thoughts about that. If anyone had like initial reactions, do you think this is a worthwhile pursuit, or maybe too labor intensive? I don't know.
Go ahead.
So thank you, Councilwoman Friedman. I did see your email. I do think, as a body, council has not been actively involved in grant writing procedures. And when I approached another grant from the city's perspective, we may have to do more internal digging to even formally submit. So I would encourage us investigating the process first, so it wouldn't add extra time to your pursuit of the grant. Now, again, I support anything that adds revenue to, anytime we get a grant, and we know agencies and departments within that have pursued grants, so it should not be that heavy of a lift. But I would need to investigate further to determine if it's worth, well, not worth, but I can allocate time to support. So I just wanted to say.
Okay, that sounds good. And maybe reach out to Megan as well, and she might have some ideas from the mayor's office to us to grants and what Because certainly anything for safety, or if there's grant money out there, I don't think anybody would be opposed to having that conversation at all. Especially if we can get some money to help us fund that. Go ahead.
Thank you. Until we get a resolution, I said I was going to bring up the fact that we cannot have public in our work session and or our business meeting. And we are approaching a deadline. And we know that, again, every time we meet, we talk about the 60 days to have broom.
Right.
And that time is near.
Do we, Sharon, do we have any, I know we were going to have it on the agenda tonight and they pushed it back because they were trying to get more information or clarification. Do you have any, I mean, we certainly can reach out to Lori to get that on the agenda with the security downstairs, and so we don't miss,
Yes, I
but-
believe that, I believe that Lori's already reached out in preparation potentially for if we're coming back in person to ensure that we kind of get the steps set up for in person. The one thing that I believe Methacem is researching now is there's a provision in the OML that has to do with the ability to continue, like nothing, it says nothing essentially in the article shall interfere with the ability during a state of emergency, right, declared by a governor or a local official to prevent virtual meetings. And so the open question is, if Governor Hochul continues to extend the state of emergency, does our authorization to continue remote meetings remain in place? And then the other kind of open question is, if members of the public are participating remotely, does that convert the whole thing into a video conference, in which then you need to create a local law with regards to exceptional circumstances? So I'm hoping that Methacem will have those two answers kind of nailed down this week. I know she had done her independent research and she was just reaching out to some other kind of resources, NICOM and the Committee on Open Government, to make sure that her reads of those questions were correct. I don't want to speak for her or for the office, but those are the two things they're looking at. But I will tell you that as far as infrastructure, kind of planning for what 60 days would look like or 45 days would look like if we needed security, those steps are being taken.
On that same note, Brian, when he was here last, talked about the safety and security of this room, knowing that our primary focus was completed, but he also mentioned hazard. Is that a focus of who's taking the lead with those parts of preparing for this transition?
Will tell you that as the Director of Personnel and Safety had Corporation Counsel and Lori, who's the Director of IT, we walked the room last Friday. So those steps are being taken.
So we won't be, that's a minute. Someone will, instead of me making this announcement or request every meeting, there will be some type of back and forth correspondence kind of update that we receive so that we can plan appropriately, as well as, I know for open meetings, we have to publish or post our meeting format, date and time. But can we be notified in advance of a planned transition date?
Anticipate that all members of council will be updated with regards to Corporation Council's determinations on open meetings law, its recommendations with regards to how to proceed, and, for example, potentially room capacity within the next 2 weeks. So probably by the time you return for your next work session.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
can we clarify the public's participation? The public comment part, I guess, is the main part. Or no, even if people wanted to appear in front of us, can we talk about, okay, we know that it's going to be, we let the public in, we have to be here in person, except for the special circumstances, but is it, how are we going to determine how the public can participate? So if it's nothing, if it's not against the law, any law for them to be at home and do it the way we've been doing it, do we as a city council then pass something to say that that's the way that if, you know, how we're gonna do that. Do we have to, if we're gonna change the way it was done in the past? Do we have to make a law on that, or do we just say we're gonna allow it?
As the methodology for public comment right now is prescribed by city code, there's various provisions in city code that relate to the public comment period. I'm going to allow Corporation Counsel, Sechrist, to give you a final determination on whether or not it needs to be a code amendment. I think that's an open question.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, we're going to take corporate counsel's advice, follow the law, and then, you know, meet all the deadlines at that point. So hopefully next work session, we'll have that as an agenda item, and then we can have some concrete milestones or steps next steps, whether it's, you know, official action or what it is. So, and then we'll go from there. All right. Motion to adjourn.
President, one comment.
Second.
Go. Councilman Scanlon, did you say something?
One quick comment. I would be, just as my personal opinion, I would be against a hybrid of allowing people to come in and speak and people remotely do it from home. I'm all for putting it back the way it was. People want to speak, they can come down and talk, or they can submit a letter to the clerk's office. It's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We had a motion. Go ahead.
You guys, I sent an email around about the butterflies. Did you guys see that? So we can do it as a council. I also talked to Jared about it, and he can do it with us or separately. So just take a look at that email because
Okay.
it keeps coming back. So we can make a motion and
Okay.
act on it.
To get back to the people, that they speak remotely or not. We never had this technology before. So because it now is open to us, I would like to have the discussion about, should we do it? If we, you know, would they have done it 100 years ago if they were able to? You know, I don't know. So, you know, that's where I'm at on that, is what is the best way to go about it?
Yep, I agree. I think in my mind is I'm not totally thinking about it until I know exactly what our options are. Then I'm thinking about it, but because if that's not an option, then it's a moot point. But if it is an option, then we need to have a discussion and possibly vote on that. So go ahead.
And I just like to add that's separate from recording the meeting and having them publicly available on YouTube, because that was something we talked about early on.
Right.
It came with the Zoom and the executive order, but it's separate. So we should be able to still record.
Yeah, absolutely.
and
I
go
would
live
100% agree with that.
on YouTube.
People should be able to watch and yeah, and that's
Okay.
good for us when they're archived if we need to go back and look at them as well.
Absolutely. Okay, but I want to make sure we separate the two.
Right,
And make sure we're advocating for what's best for our constituents.
right.
All right, thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Have a good night, everyone. See you Wednesday.